Okay, we're going to get underway. And at the outset, I'd like to welcome you, and particularly welcome Dr. David Grafton, who's going to be my successor and who's going to say something to us in a couple of seconds, and Sarah Calderon, who is the Graduate Studies Assistant and who is a person that you will relate to a whole lot if you come into the graduate school programs. So why don't I hand over to David? Maybe you'd like to open in prayer and say something about you before we deal with the programs.
Thanks, Margaret. All right, why don't we begin with prayer? Let us pray. Creating God, we thank you for this day and for the opportunities of learning and teaching, for the vocations that you lay before us in the church. As we gather today to think and talk about further educational possibilities, we are mindful of all that you would have us do. We ask this all through Christ our Lord. Amen. Well, for those of you who are interested in pursuing further possibilities of advanced degrees, I want to welcome you to this convocation to learn more about our programs here at the seminary. If you're interested in pursuing this, I need to introduce myself because I'll be the person that you'll be dealing with next year, as Dr. Krych is counting down the days to retirement. So she is handing over the mantle of the Graduate Studies program to me, and I will be assuming those responsibilities. I come most recently from Cairo, Egypt, where I was the Director of Graduate Studies at the Evangelical Presbyterian Seminary there, and I was in charge of directing a master's program, very similar to the DMin program here, although on a much smaller scale. So I'm very excited about getting into this new role that involves not only the DMin, but the STM and the PhD program and the General Certificate program. So I look forward to serving in this capacity and learning as much from Dr. Krych as I can in the next 2 months before she rides off into the blue yonder. So I will turn the podium back over to her as she runs through each of the programs, and I'll be here throughout the duration and afterwards if anyone has particular questions for me about how things might go next year. So thank you.
Thanks, David. And both of us will be glad to answer questions afterwards. Let me say at the outset, you are not committing yourself by being here or asking questions. We are not secretly taking down your name and planning that you will be caught by us in the programs. And there are no stupid questions. Please know any question is very welcome. I'll run through the programs quickly first to let you know what reason there is for taking each one, and they're different. And then we will turn it over to you for questions. And what I say here will apply in general to other institutions too. The actual details of the programs may vary a little bit, but basically the requirements of these degrees are set by the Association of Theological Schools, the accrediting agency, and therefore any accredited institution will have a similar kind of program for each of these degrees. So let's have a look and say, why would you even think about doing advanced degree programs? The fact is that the MDiv and MAR give you the bare minimum to do adequate ministry. Sorry if you're in your senior year, but that is the case. Graduate degrees help you build on that bare minimum for various purposes, and each has a particular purpose in mind. And in addition, there are some specific ministries that a graduate degree may prepare you for, such as a PhD prepares you for a teaching ministry in a way that an MAR and MDiv do not. So let's have a look at each of the degrees. You have overview sheets in your packet, and they will tell you all that you need to know other than the questions you have. I'll very quickly highlight a few points from each of the degrees. First of all, the STM program. Currently, we have 87 students in that program. You don't see them very often around here because nearly all of them are pastors, or some of them are associates in ministry rostered in some other status, and they have full-time jobs. So they are coming on campus and leaving quickly to go back to their work, or they're coming on campus for intensive courses, and sometimes you will see those persons at the dinner table, in the refectory and chapel. The STM, the Master of Sacred Theology, is an advanced degree that requires you to have a BA and either an MAR or an MDiv. The MAR plus the STM, in fact, gives you MDiv equivalence, and there are some synods, if you have an MAR, who, if you do an STM, will consider that the equivalent of a DMin, an MDiv for purposes of ordination. Other synods require you to actually do the remainder of an MDiv in order to ordain you. So if you're sitting here in an MAR track and thinking about ordination, you should contact your synod. The STM prepares you for teaching and research for such institutions as a community college, a private high school, chaplaincy work, could be parish ministry because you want to be expert in a particular major field of study, or you might be preparing to do a PhD program and you want some more experience doing advanced level work, or maybe you have a borderline MDiv GPA and you want to prove that you are capable of doing a higher grade of work. All of those are reasons that people do an STM. There are two tracks. One has a thesis and one has a non-thesis, and you can swap between those. You don't have to feel you're signing your life away. If you sign up for the thesis track, you can change to the non-thesis track, or vice versa. The thesis track has 4 courses in the major field plus the thesis, out of a total of 8 courses and thesis. The non-thesis track has 10 courses total, of which 5 and an oral integrative exam need to be in the major field. And if you're going on to PhD studies, we advise you to take the thesis course, thesis track, unless you are just about to apply for a PhD and in fact would be admitted before you do the thesis. In that case, it's really immaterial which track you choose, because the point of doing the thesis is so that your advisor will be able to recommend you on the basis of your thesis. And if you haven't yet written the thesis, it does not really matter. You can start the STM in your last semester of your MAR or MDiv program. That means when you only have 4 courses or less to complete your first professional degree. At that point, you can take a course, or if you've got only 2 courses to finish your degree, 2 courses, in the advanced level program, and you can do that even before you apply. If you want to do more than 2 courses, then you need to actually be admitted, or at least have your application in the admissions office. For the STM, there are semester-long courses, just like you have for the MAR and MDiv. There are also online courses, at least 3 of them per year, and there are 1-week intensive courses which appeal to pastors. Quite often they can take 5 days, Monday through Friday. They have preached the previous Sunday, they can preach this coming Sunday. The congregation doesn't really notice very much they have been gone. They usually have somebody to cover for them for emergencies, and that is often a very attractive option. So if you get in the parish and you want to take coursework and you're at a distance, then the 1-week intensives or the online courses will work best for you. You're also allowed to do up to two independent studies with your advisor, and you can upgrade a couple of, if you're close enough to travel to the seminary, a couple of MDiv elective courses. can be upgraded to an STM level. So all of those options are there for you. So if you leave and take a parish, you can certainly come back and do your STM, and you have 6 years to complete it. And in fact, if you're still doing it steadily, maybe you only have a certain amount of continuing education monies, you can only afford one course a year, but you're progressing steadily, then the faculty will allow you to extend for a small fee per year, and you'll be able to complete the degree. So as long as you keep on doing at least one course a year, you will be in good standing. You should be aware there is very little financial aid at the STM level. Mr. Bugno is not with us today. He will be coming back from vacation on March 3rd, I believe, and if you're interested in financial aid, you would need to talk to him. Usually people are part-time, about 97% of the students are part-time in the STM program, and so they are being paid in some work, usually a call in the church, and they often have continuing education funds, and so most likely they're going to apply for the $500, which is for part-time, as long as you're taking 2 courses in a semester, and that means fall and January or spring and June. If you take 2 courses over that kind of period, you could get $500 towards the program. So that's the STM. The DMin program, the Doctor of Ministry program, is different from the STM in its aim and in its requirements. The Doctor of Ministry program is for professional expertise in ministry. The STM is an academic degree. It has a major. The DMin has a focus area, but it's not a major. It's only 2 courses out of 8, and it is the follow-up to the MDiv. The MDiv is a professional degree. The MAR is an academic degree. The DMin is the follow-up to the MDiv. It's a professional degree, and it's a terminal degree. That's as high as you can go professionally. And the STM is an academic degree, and there's one beyond the STM. That's the PhD. Okay, so they're 2 different kinds of animals. To do a Doctor of Ministry, you need not only the MDiv or MDiv equivalents, and MAR will not do it. You need an MAR plus STM, or you need an MDiv, or in some way to have completed the 90 hours that an MDiv requires. And you need to have 3 years in ministry following completion of the first theological degree. Gets a bit murky if you've done an MAR and then an STM. We count the 3 years from the end of the MAR. So, but you still have to do the MDiv equivalents in order to get into the DMin. Okay? Both STM and DMin require a 3.0 or better GPA. So if you've got a 3.0, you can certainly apply. And in the DMin program, you do 8 courses, 2 colloquia that are not courses, they're 2 to 3 days in length, 4 candidacy papers that may be course papers in particular areas, and a project in ministry. And you also have an on-site visit to your place of ministry because the degree is for excellence in ministry. Okay? The STM is not like that. You don't have any visit. Nobody takes into account the kind of ministry you do. But for the DMin, it's a professional degree. We have to make sure that you're doing adequate ministry. In your focus area, it's usually something to do with your place of ministry. It could be evangelism, preaching, teaching, worship, liturgy, leadership, administration, whatever you want. Something to do with your ministry. The DMin is also part of a cluster program in ministry. Only we offer the degree, but you can transfer in 4 courses from Southern or from Gettysburg, and they offer some particular things that help the program. Or you can do it all here. You also can transfer in 4 courses from any other accredited institution too, and you can do that with the STM. So if you're out there in Chicago area for ministry, you can get 4 courses in that area, as long as it's an institution accredited to offer STM or DMin courses, transfer them in and do the other 4 here, which makes your life quite easy. In addition, we've got the online courses. They're considered our own. We have the independent studies that you can do. They're considered our courses, and there are the intensive courses that you can travel for. So given all that, we have people in the program from Oklahoma, California, Montana, Texas, Minnesota, you name it, we've got them, as well as all up and down the East Coast. You have to have at least 3 years, but no more than 6 in the DMin program. But again, if you're going steadily along, one course at a time, you've submitted your project proposal on time, and you're going through at a steady pace, you will be able to get an extension. Also, if you're going to be a military chaplain, there are special ways that your chaplaincy training can be counted. So if you're interested in that, you'll need to see Dr. Grafton or myself afterwards. Also, you should know that if you do an STM, it will count 4 courses towards a DMin, and if you do a DMin, it will count 4 courses towards an STM. Moreover, there is one exception to the 3-year in ministry requirement, and that is if you do an STM during those first 3 years, it will still count for 4 courses towards the DMin, even though the coursework was done during those first 3 years. But only if you get a conferred STM. You can't just do 4 courses and say, okay, I'll use them. You've got to finish the STM, then it counts 4 courses towards the DMin. Finally, there's a totally different kind of degree, and that's the Doctor of Philosophy degree. And this one is much more competitive. You need a 3.7 to get into our program, and most good programs will require a 3.7 or better in the MDiv degree. Or you can do an MAR degree and go direct to a PhD, but then your major in your PhD must be, this is accreditation rules, must be the same as the major in your MAR, has to be the same as the major in the PhD. That limits you. If you want freedom to choose your major in the PhD, you should do an MDiv. Those are accreditation requirements, and they apply to all institutions that are accredited by ATS. That would be all divinity schools and seminaries in the United States and Canada. Okay? You can sometimes get into a PhD program at a university that's not a divinity school, world religions, for example, at the University of Pennsylvania or at Temple, under different rules, usually on the basis of your BA degree. But if you're going to do it through a theologically accredited institution, you do need to adhere to the MDiv as the entering degree. Our PhD here has an overall thrust of public theology and 4 concentrations or fields. You should know that we are somewhat unique in allowing you a major and a minor here. Most programs allow you only one focus area, and many do not allow you to take courses in anything but that. When I was at Princeton, for example, my field was systematic theology, so I could take courses in historical theology, systematic theology, philosophy of theology, ethics, but I was not allowed to take any Bible courses, and I was not allowed to take any practical courses because they were different areas. And likewise, if I had done a degree in Bible or practical, I would not have been permitted to take any courses in systematic theology or in historical theology. Our program will allow you a major and a minor, so you're allowed to do some crossovers there and have, therefore, more validity for teaching more than a narrow segment of work when you go to be a teacher. A PhD is for persons who want to do teaching in universities, colleges, seminaries, or who want to write and publish, do research. Occasionally a person will do a PhD because they just want to be a parish pastor with particular expertise, but it's designed for professional teaching. And therefore we have a teaching requirement, a whole semester's teaching seminar in January, and 3 follow-up teaching assistant experiences where you're observed and you're written up and you are prepared to be a teacher. Now, the PhD differs from the STM and DMin in another way, and that is it's full-time. It's full-time for at least 2 years and preferably for the whole program. You want to get this thing done and then get out there to get your teaching job, because most places will not hire you until you've finished the dissertation and had it approved. Okay? Full-time means that you can work for maybe 15 to 18 hours a week, but you're not allowed to work beyond that. You also have to do graduate record exams, GREs, for a PhD. You do not have to do those for an STM or DMin. And if you come from another country, I don't think anybody here that I can see is obviously from another country, but if you find a friend who is, they must do the TOEFL exams in English and written English to get in. Further, you need language requirements for a PhD, which you do not need for an STM or a DMin. They may be nice, but you don't have to do them. For a PhD, you have to have at least 3 languages here. In some places it's 2, it depends on the program. And here you might have to have more than 3 if your major area, your concentration, requires it. And probably we'll hear from Martin, who's a PhD student here, who knows that I guess you had to do Latin as well, right? Yes, because he's studying in Reformation studies. But you need at least 1 ancient language. You can choose what it is, Hebrew, Greek, and if you've done your MDiv here, you've got those, or Latin. And you need 2 modern languages, French, German, or Spanish, to get in here. You'd have to check each different program what they require, but usually French and German are pretty standard. And you prepare for that, I would suggest right now, while you're doing your MDiv or MAR. The due date for applications for the PhD here is January 15th. They range from December 1 through the end of January. You'd have to find out what school you're going to and what requirements they have. Here you are at a great advantage if you do your PhD, because you're required to take at least 1 course at the University of Pennsylvania. You're allowed to take up to 3 off campus, 1 at UPenn, the other 2 could be UPenn, Temple, Princeton, or Westminster, at no further cost to you than what you pay in fees. There are some scholarships for PhD programs, and they are given in order of merit. Provided the Dow Jones stays up, we normally give 3 full tuition and 2 half tuition in any year. Following your coursework, you take comprehensive exams, and then you write a dissertation. And it's quite competitive, but there is a wonderful atmosphere here of support among the students, and so far everybody's doing very well, and you will see if you go to graduation, one of them will be graduating this year, pending defense of his dissertation, but we hope that that all goes well. So, if you're going to do a PhD, I would suggest that you apply to a number of schools. STM or DMin, if you've got a 3.0 and provided you haven't broken laws or been arrested for something or whatever, you will get in to an STM or a DMin. But a PhD, it's really competitive. I'd apply to 8 or 9 schools. I told my daughter to do that when she was doing her PhD, not in theology, and she did. If you get admitted to all of them, well, that's nice. You can then choose the one you want to go to. But it's a good idea to have a number of schools. You can take your GREs several times. I would recommend that too. They look at the top scores. And there's no online, no part-time for PhD, no online courses, because you have to be in residence. So they're all here. And you're there throughout the week. And you're not only taking courses, but you're doing TA work. And you can do courses just for PhD. Some of them are just for PhD. Some are for the advanced STM students and PhD. We don't mix DMin and PhD because they're different kinds of degrees for different purposes. I'm going to hand over to Martin, who's a current PhD student, and he's going to say something about his experience.
Thanks, Dr. Krych and Dr. Grafton. I just came today to take a break from reading and writing. My brain was full for the morning. But I wanted to come and see what was being said here today and also make myself available for questions. I am an ordained pastor. I served in Ohio and also felt always called to teaching ministry, as Dr. Krych put it. And so I was very thankful that this seminary has now started this PhD program. It's only, I think, in its third year still. I'm pleased to report it's a good program. Nice thing about taking classes at Penn, where I've taken 2 classes, and Princeton Seminary, where I took 1 class, is that I did get to see and compare the coursework I'm doing here with the coursework they're doing at very established institutions, and finding I am indeed getting a very strong PhD. It sometimes sounds rigorous, the Latin and the German, but I brought with me today something from Muhlenberg I'm working on. The patriarch of American Lutheranism, he wrote in Latin and German. So we English speakers don't always get to know what he thought. And as part of my teaching ministry, I enjoy uncovering a lot of that kind of work that was done in different languages as a student of history. And so that's where I see myself serving the church as somebody who does get to know the sources a little better than you do just going through the MDiv, where you get everything thrown at you all at once. It's nice to have this time to really immerse myself in one aspect of the church and its learning. So thank you, and I'm available for questions.
Thanks, Martin. There are 11 other students in the PhD program right now, and we've just admitted another 6. So the program is growing. The other majors besides historical theology are scriptural theology, contemporary theology, and theology for ministry, or practical theology, if you like. So it's a fun program. There is one other sheet that you have in your packet, and that's called an advanced graduate certificate. That simply means you do 8 courses. You don't write a thesis, you don't do an oral exam, and so on. You just take 8 STM DMin courses and get a certificate. You can do that anytime. It can roll over into an STM or a DMin, or you can do it simultaneously with it. Again, you need a 3.0 to get in. Who around here can help you? Dr. Grafton can help you. I can help you. Your advisor can help you, especially if you want to go on into a PhD program. The chair of the department in the institution where you're applying can help you, and you should visit if you're interested in a PhD, because it is so competitive. Visit the chair of the department and visit the PhD director in that institution. Here you would talk to Dr. Grafton if you're going to come in or hope to come in the following years. Any other faculty in the area that you want to major in can help you. We've all been through the PhD process and we've all survived. For admissions, Louise Johnson can help you, or Beth Titus. And for financial questions, Mr. Bugno can help you. If you want to try things out, you cannot try out PhD courses, but you can try out STM or DMin courses. 2 of them you can do non-matriculant, and they just stay on your record, and if later you want to do the degree, they will count towards it. But that is a way to start and test yourself out without promising anything, and we're always happy for you to do that.